I ask for the truth on behalf of Jillian Morrison concerning relationship issues. And I ask this in the name of truth, right conduct, peace, love and non-violence. Blessed be to the raven, the carrier of souls from darkness into light. And now for you, Jillian, let us examine these cards and seek the truth. Let us open our eyes and make ourselves wise to the power of darkness. I shall deal 3 cards. The first card is representative of the recent past. Let us just reveal that card slowly to see what we have. And there we have the Ten of Swords. Crowley often calls the Ten of Swords the Lord of Ruin. This deck seems to focus on the hand of death, as if that's it. The flesh has been taken from it and there is nothing left, literally. I suppose that's what the ruin is, isn't it, really? That just recently that one has felt as though there is no flesh left on the bone. That's you can place your hand out, can't you, to offer assistance or offer guidance or offer the hand of peace or whatever, but at the end of the day, if there is none there to receive, then the hand that offers is an empty gesture, isn't it? And just recently maybe you felt that way, that things have just been black and clouded. And I suppose really this is reality. This is what life is. It's not fluffy bunny teddy bears and cuddly cats and all this sort of thing. Life is basically reality, and at the end of the day, of course, we know that you know that more than most, but in the last 3 or 4 weeks or so, something has driven you to ruin, something has driven you to that point where there is nothing left to offer. I can offer you this, what I have in my hand. But if there's no skin and bone on my hand, I can't even offer you my hand, can I? And yet, it's there. Maybe this is the hand that's been offered to you. An empty gesture, or the hand of ruin has been offered. And for as much as you take a grip of that and you embrace it, or you embraced it, as we could say, nevertheless it had a cold feel to it. Let's pull the next card and let's see what the present influence holds right now. What's what's the energy there? What energy is vibrating right now concerning this? Another 10. The 10 of Wands, the Lord of Oppression. Crowley calls it the Lord of Oppression, the 10 of Wands. It's more to do with misery and torment, really, isn't it? In the sense that the skull of the stag or whatever is there, and that's all that's left. Can't strip it down any further, can you? We've had the hand, I suppose, the hand of fate just recently. Unseen forces are taking over or in control, or have been in control, and then the Lord of Oppression bringing nothing but torment, bringing nothing but not really whatever this is, it's been getting at you. It's got at you, and it hurts deep down, of course, but nevertheless, at least you know that it's there. And for as much as whatever flame does burn, look here, it's on the tips of the antlers of a lifeless thing. All has been stripped away, and you're left with this torment. You're left with, maybe as if you feel bullied in some way, as if this, what else can go wrong? Of course, is there a future? Well, of course there's a future, but what energies vibrate there? I mean, concerning relationships, and one has said that one is pursuing a certain person, but if one has pursued this person over the past 3 or 4 weeks or so, it has led to nothing. A hand of fate offering out, or the gesture, the empty gesture, the Lord of Ruin, black and clouded energy has overshadowed it, and right now this has led to, I suppose, oppression, in the sense of, yes, a lot of torment, a lot of misery, really, at the moment. Maybe because one is thinking of flames that once did burn, you know. Let's pull out the next card and see what the immediate future is. Let's see what energy vibrates there, potentially. If negative, of course, it can be forewarned as forearmed, as we established over previous readings for different people. But of course, if positive, the moon, it's a major arcana card, the moon, as you know, so it takes prominence, really. It's probably the most important event that's going to take place within this situation that you have unfortunately found yourself in. Is going to take place in the next 3 or 4 weeks or so. The moon, of course, can represent introspection. Of course, the raven also will represent that. Of course, the moon can symbolize lies, because there's no such thing as moonlight. Remember, moonlight is a lie. It is a deception, and for those who believe in it and look at it and believe in it, they're deluded, aren't they? because it's reflected sunlight. It is a mere reflection of something else. It is not, the moon is not illuminated of its own accord. But we often say moonlight, and there's no such thing as moonlight. It is a complete lie. And this symbolises lies and deception. It symbolises sometimes that you have to sometimes go into the inner depths of one's soul to discover the real truth in the underworld, because in some depths of the moon you have the wolves or the hounds howling, and you have a pond, and under the pond is representing, well, it's like all wonderful ponds and lakes and things. Oh, look at the boats floating on there. Look at the ducks. Oh, let's feed the ducks. Oh, look at the pond life. Look at that little shrub just sticking out there. And at the end of the day, it's a lie, isn't it? Because underneath the surface, Jillian, there's nothing but old fridges, old bikes, all the shit that's been thrown. But we don't see it, because it's underneath the surface, isn't it? And that's in a way, ironically, why the moon itself represents the truth. For as much as it represents the lies, and is energised by lies, in the underworld it represents the truth, because the truth exists in the underworld. The truth is, isn't it? And we can try and divorce ourselves from it by lying to ourselves even. But at the end of the day, this delusion and this lunacy will have to stop, but it has to take place first. One has to experience going within to one's soul, I suppose, at a level of soul, and discovering the underworld within oneself, the truth that exists within oneself. And by doing that, you can then only expose the lies that one was telling oneself. And maybe the lies that others were telling you, and also maybe the lies that you were telling them. And the fact that it is a delusion, isn't it? But the light of the moon, for as much as it is reflected sunlight, shines in the darkness. And for as much as the shadow that represents the negative side of oneself, or that part of oneself that one tries to ignore to the best of one's abilities, nevertheless, home truths exist there, don't they? And of course, under the surface, the truth is. What about relationships? What about the relationship side of it? Well, of course, the hand that dished out the ruin, the black and clouded energy of the past, offering out that, leading to this stripping down of even that, so the only flame that is left, as you would say, that does burn, is burning away at virtually that which has been taken anyway. There's nothing left to burn, is it really? And this is it, isn't it? And the fact that one feels tormented by it. If only this had come to an end, if only. But nevertheless, what's the alternative? To lie to oneself in a state of delusion and lunacy? Is that the answer? Because if it is for the next months or so, this is what This is the reality. And what happens after that, of course, is down to you, isn't it? Because the magic, the true magic, is within you, and the raven can carry you from darkness into the light and help you see and become aware of that. For raven and crow are guardian of the place before existence. They protect things that haven't yet happened, and they are there protecting it. They enter into the darkness without fear, and they face up to the truth. If the truth is that one is pursuing an empty gesture, see the link there as we follow if one's pursuit has led to torment, has led to misery, and just feeling as if one is just completely oppressed by the situation caving in on oneself, to seek what exists in the underworld of oneself is one thing, but to lie to oneself, and not just to lie to oneself, but to believe the lies, that one is telling oneself. But is that done just in the same way as we say the word moonlight? We just say it because it's the light of the moon, so it must be moonlight. And for some strange reason we buy into it. You've fallen for it, hook, line and sinker, haven't you? And this is it. And to think that what's under the surface, what's the truth of that? The reflection of the reflected moonlight on the surface is one thing, but that's a reflection of a reflection. What is the reflection of what's within you under the surface that looks up and sees no reflection? Can only see the reflected light of the sun on the moon, doesn't see the reflection of the surface when one is under the surface looking up. And maybe this is what it is, the raven, the sacred raven looking upward. Because to look down is to just look at the reflection of oneself. And that, maybe it's that. It will be that hurts. The torment and the misery and the oppression right now is nothing compared to the truth that one would see if one was not in a state of delusion. And the question is, well, of course it was about relationships. It was about pursuing somebody. Is it worth pursuing that person? Is it worth it? But the real question is it worth pursuing myself and pursuing the true me and searching for the light within me? Not the reflected light of the moon, the reflected sunlight of the moon, not the lie. Search for the truth, the true light that's within me. But of course, the raven enters into the darkness without fear, doesn't he? And faces up to it, and will help you face up to it, and will carry you from the darkness into the light of maybe a relationship that would blossom, if only. And that's for the foreseeable future, unfortunately, is the only thing that one has to hope for, really. I'm focusing on the eyes of the raven as if the eyes are the windows to the soul. As if that's what they say, isn't it? The eyes are the windows to the soul. For as much as the raven looks up at the moon, what does the moon see in the raven's eyes? Its own reflection. Does it see its own reflection? Does it see somebody looking back at it? If it did have eyes and could see, what is going on? And maybe asking yourself, notice, of course, sometimes there are clouds that overshadow any situation, but it's very much working with the shadows, really, of oneself. The shadow is often referred to, isn't it? The dark side of any human being or any soul is often referred to as the shadow. The shamans and the druids and that used to refer to it as that, didn't they? With the wolf and whatever. The wolf actually was the one that helped you search within yourself. But the raven, of course, is the only animal spirit that speaks, and this is why, being the winged ones, carries the messages from the heavens to the earth, and carries guidance, but carries guidance from a place where sometimes we don't want to go. And when we find ourselves in a dark place, we tolerate the oppression, like as if now it's one thing to tolerate the oppression, isn't it? It's one thing to tolerate the torment and the misery. It's one thing to acknowledge the ruin of the past, one thing to acknowledge the black and clouded events that took place over the past 3 or 4 weeks or so, but to move forward to the now and to just suffer this is one thing, but to move past that, to move from today into a new tomorrow, there has to be a sunset upon it, so that sun sets and then there's darkness and then the light shines, the sun rises again the next day. One has to endure the darkness, and it's that darkness that one has to enter in, the darkness called the shadow, that has to, and the raven can carry you through that, and the raven can guide you through that, and can speak to you and help you and carry you from that darkness, that uncertainty, and release you from that, so that yes, the reflected sunlight of the moon shines down, but you will see exactly through it and see exactly what it is. So when its reflection sort of reflects off the surface of a lake or whatever, you'll know exactly what it is. You'll know exactly what it is because you will have been under the surface and seen for yourself that there is no reflection on the surface. When one enters into the underworld, when one enters into the true self, one sees things clearly. And that is the key to it, isn't it? And the only thing, the question really isn't, will it happen? The question is, what will happen, I suppose. And also the question isn't why has it happened this way, or why will it happen that way? Why is it happening this way? That not even that is the question. Those aren't the questions. maybe the questions are just what is happening now. And by living now, what is happening now? Why have I got this pain? Why have I got this? Why have I got this oppression, in the sense of, as if, not so much when people bully you and that they get at you, but when situations bully you, when circumstances seem as if they get at you and just don't let it go. They only let it go because you won't let it. You won't allow it to let go. Of course, from a relationship point of view, well, there is no relationship. The only relationship that you have is with the shadow, with that that exists within you, the true you, I suppose, really, where the true light shines, you see. The true light shines. It doesn't shine from the reflected sunlight of the moon that you think is moonlight. That's not light. That's a lie. That's a deception. That's a delusion that you wish to believe because you don't want to face up to the truth that the light shines within you. And yes, that light would shine in him, the right one, or whoever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, the right one is you, isn't it? And once you discover that you are the right one, that is when you will find the right one for you. And that is a thing, of course. The sun sets and then one must endure the darkness for a period of time. It's not permanent. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent, is it? And then once one has been carried from the darkness into the light of the morrow, that's when the sun rises. And then that is when the genesis of a new beginning can take place, isn't it? That's when the genesis of a new situation can take place. And maybe, just maybe, tomorrow's sunrise will be the beginning of the rest of your life. And that is very much down to you, isn't it? It's down to you for as long as you are prepared to play the game. For as long as you buy it, for as long as you dig it, and for as long as you fall for it, hook, line and sinker. And that really is that, isn't it? There's no more to be said here, because for the next month or so it is more of an inner journey, isn't it, of introspection. Notice how the raven appears to be holding the moon in his bill or beak or whatever, when really that's a lie, isn't it? Because it just appears that way because of the distance of the raven's bill in comparison to how close you are to it, that appears as though the moon has been held by the raven, and yet it's not. That's a lie as well, isn't it? And yeah, you're taken in by that, aren't you? And this is all the time. But just be careful that, of course, the immediate future within the next month or so is more of, yes, it's a warning that one must focus on the shadow within and listen to the inner truth, for as much as the essence of the moon is deception and lies, nevertheless its very essence or its earthly effect is the truth, because without the truth, how would you know what the lies were? And with that, for now, I think that the cards have spoken.